Hello and welcome to another Evolve Alliance Provider Member Showcase. Today I have with me Andrew Varlamos from OpenInvest. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Sue. Great to see you and thanks for having me on.
Well, Andrew, I've been really excited to record this showcase with you because when I discovered what OpenInvest does, you have quite a unique service offering in the market, and it served the purpose for a number of our clients of what they were looking for. And I'm probably not going to articulate this very well, but what I love about what you do is you provide the ability for firms to leverage their intellectual property around their investment philosophy and deliver it to clients in a digital way for those clients who aren't quite ready yet to pay for full personal advice. Have I explained that well?
Well, you have, and you used an interesting word and the right word in your introductory comments, which is a unique offering. That's the thing with something unique. It's actually not necessarily easy to describe or understand. I think the way you've described it's great. Let me just add a couple of sentences around it. OpenInvest is a managed account investment platform. So there's several of them in market. That's what we are. That means a technology, a legal structure, a compliance regime, and an operations team that will keep any number of end client portfolios in line with the model portfolio they're attached to. Now, what's different is that's not unique. That's a managed account platform. One applies to every managed account platform. What is unique and different is that we customize the platform to give it the look and feel of any advice firm we partner with, so that that firm has essentially its own digital investing solution. That is, its own branding, the firm's own model portfolios, and the firm's own content. They make it available from their website for individuals to sign up on their own without having to go through a personal advice relationship and process. And what that means is that the firm can offer it for to use a term, their non-ideal clients or prospects.
Fantastic. Now, I know some people may listen to that and think, well, we deliver comprehensive financial advice. We are so much more than our investment philosophy. And so I know that you can power a purely investment philosophy value proposition. However, I feel that you serve a great purpose for advice firms that really want to cultivate that future client, but cannot justify the amount of work involved to provide personal advice for the client that might be the child of a current client, or someone that's basically saying, look, I've got X amount of dollars, I've got 25,000, I've got 50,000 that I really need invested well, and I want it with a great firm, but I'm not ready for your future or your full service offering just yet. Now, we are going to drill into quite a bit of detail around how you do this, Andrew, but what we love to do in these showcase videos is to very early on hear from one of your clients who has actually been utilising your services to achieve an outcome. So let's just play one of those testimonials from one of your clients first.
My name's Jeremy McPhail. I work for FMD Financial in Melbourne. We're a retail financial advice practice with 15 advisors in Melbourne, 3 in Adelaide and 2 in Brisbane. We service retail mums and dad clients across the business with about $1.8 billion and a little over 2,000 clients. FMD Financial's main focus is comprehensive advice to successful mums and dads. We saw a gap in our service offering where clients had friends and relatives or other people that they had in their networks that would come to us with smaller amounts of money, where it was quite difficult for us to deliver advice to those investors or advice seekers at a cost-effective or in a cost-effective manner. We saw a gap in our business and went to market to find a service provider that could help us deliver an FMD-like investment opportunity or outcome, but focus simply on the general advice or on the portfolio service, which OpenInvest were deemed to be the best in that place for us. We've got an extensive and detailed investment committee approach. Now that's obviously got a mandate to manage portfolios for our comprehensive service clients. As part of the output that we focus on, we also believe that we have the ability to do a different range of portfolios that would have fitted into what are the general advice portfolios that OpenInvest help us deliver. We use their support and use their platform to be able to construct the portfolios, and effectively it's a model portfolio service that is using our skills and our investment committee expertise to construct portfolios and give what is a pretty streamlined and consistent service effort to what is that general advice market that we weren't able to do as part of the more comprehensive advice piece coming out of the main business. With the service that we're offering through OpenInvest, we've actually created a new brand for our business, which is a fully owned subsidiary of FMD Financial. We spent a lot of time trying to design what we thought would be something that would be certainly seen as independent in the market, separate from the FMD business. We wanted to be seen as a separate business model and a separate business line. We've actually branded it Rev Invest, REV Invest. The investors can access or can view details about the service on revinvest.com.au. So we've got a separate website for that. From the website, revinvest.com.au, you'll see largely the interface that's relating to Rev and the effort that we've put into the branding and the different portfolios and details about the 5 portfolios that we've created. Thereafter, you're basically using the infrastructure of the OpenInvest framework. So it's effectively a white label of what is their interface, their website, their application forms, their back office to process the application process, the onboarding process, the money transitioning from the clients' or investors' accounts across to the accounts that are sitting with OpenInvest, and what the clients or investors see are RevInvest branded interfaces and applications once they go there, but obviously all supported by the OpenInvest infrastructure and framework in the background. The whole process with OpenInvest has been fairly simple. They've done a lot of the work for us in terms of the documentation that's required to be published, obviously the website, the interface, what you can see as an investor, so through the app or through the website where that's all delivered for you. So it is a pretty efficient, pretty streamlined output that investors see. So we obviously have our expertise that we put into creating the portfolios and building the portfolios out in the portal and having them through the offer documents that Open have helped us build. So that's certainly a positive, and obviously it's filling a gap that we aren't able to deliver effectively or efficiently in the full advice business. That costs are extreme in the advice world. Compliance costs are high, ongoing service costs are high. So for the opportunity and for the clientele that are in this bucket, I think it's a pretty efficient way of delivering a product that suits what their specific needs are. I think if you've seen the need and have a need for this sort of service, which, as I said earlier, in the complex world that we have with comprehensive advice and the cost of delivering advice, I think there's a need for it. And certainly from what we saw, we've partnered with them and they're helping us deliver RevInvest. So certainly support's been great. The service has been good. The product is a good product, and on that basis, I think we'd certainly be confident in recommending or introducing the business to other people.
Well, that is fascinating. So, Andrew, there's so many questions that I know people are going to want to have answered here. So our audience is traditionally the broad financial advice businesses who absolutely have cultivated a fantastic value proposition that is about creating wealth for clients as well as helping them live their best life and achieve their goals. And usually that does require personal advice and it requires an entire financial plan. But equally, most of the firms that we deal with are also very clear around their targeted clientele, the people that they do their best work with. And sometimes they have inquiries and referrals from people that aren't ready for that full service yet, but they want a great way to be able to engage with them and keep them close to the firm, solve their initial need first to then service them better later. So with your proposition, they can solve that initial need if it is, look, I've just got this amount of money, I really want to invest it well, and I'll worry about everything else a little bit further down the track. So let's go into detail. How does this work? How can people actually, I guess really what you're doing is sell their investment philosophy and their investment solution without actually giving personal advice?
Well, you're 100% right. When you say some firms, I think you said some firms, I'll just interject for a moment and say this applies to every single advice firm that we've met in this country. It's a function of the regulations in this country. It's a function of the regulations in every country. And it's a function of, well, individual people require their time and effort to be compensated for. It just means it's expensive. And therefore, every firm has a history of saying to various people that have come to them, say, I'm sorry, I would love to help you. I can't help you. And the cutoff, each firm has their own cutoff. I mean, good luck getting into, the big high net worth firms with $500,000 or $1 million, let alone 25 or 50. But those people are sent away, and frankly, they're sent away and with an implicit message, I can't help you, come back when you're wealthy, open brackets, if you ever are. Until then, open up an account on CommSec and keep your fingers crossed. Right? It's a terrible outcome. Now, that wasn't your question. To answer your question specifically, what we do is recognise that there's a distinction and a delineation, as you've said, between those individuals who are ready and can afford personal advice and those people who can't. They may be ready in a few years as they build their wealth. And the firm would like to say yes and say, we can help you. And the firms would actually have a terrific reason for wanting those individuals to be within the firm's ecosystem. What we do is configure our OpenInvest technology platform. We make it available from the firm's website so that an individual can sign up if it's ABC Financial Planning. They go to the ABC Financial Planning website. They can see the full array of services. One of them is our online investing solution, ABC Direct, just to make up a name. They click yes. Hey, this sounds interesting. I'm going to invest in the firm's growth portfolio. When they hit the button Invest Now, OpenInvest takes care of everything else. So the firm isn't doing any of the AML KYC work. There's not personal financial advice given, so there's no statement of advice. But we sign them up and we invest that individual client into the ABC Financial Planning Growth Portfolio. The end customer sees it in the ABC branding. They have a portfolio where decisions are being made by ABC. OpenInvest is implementing and administering those decisions. And then lastly, it's a content publishing platform. So the individual consumer is receiving within the app a regular feed of updates, explanations, and other forms of content in written form or videos from the team at ABC, keeping them informed, aware, reassured, and conscious of all the additional services that the firm provides. So when they're ready, there's only one firm they're going to be reaching out to contact for personal advice, and that's ABC, because ABC's looked after them for X number of months or years.
So the firms that you're working with, I can imagine this is a great solution that people can direct clients to. And particularly when we're talking about Standard 7 in the Code of Ethics, it's a big thing that comes up for a lot of advisors. They know for them to put a client through their advice proposition, to service them well, to get to know them well, to be able to satisfy best interest duty, they have to charge a minimum fee. And sometimes they know that they can't deliver value for the fee, whether that fee be $3,000, $6,000, whatever the case may be. Yep. And yet they can see that this is a client who will likely be perfect for that solution down the track. So in your experience of the firms you have, I can imagine if you had, for example, that referral of, oh, look, our kids have got some money that they want to invest, we want them to talk to you. But so they would make that introduction first. They might have a conversation to get to know them a little bit, identify if this is going to be the best solution for them or if they really do have some other more complex needs, and then they would direct them to them. But are you finding that firms are actually do they create marketing propositions, and are they finding that they wake up in the morning and they've got new leads and new people that have actually engaged with their firm without ever having had any conversation?
Yes, and yes. So
Right.
what I mean by that is it's actually not so much the case in the firms we've dealt with where the firms have necessarily a long history of turning away the kids of their existing clients, to pick one subset, because the parents know what it costs and they know that young Tommy and Matilda aren't ready for that. It doesn't make any sense for those kids. And they're left to their own devices. And as we know in the modern era with social media and other forms of ready means for entities to reach people via technology, they're being bombarded with every scam under the sun of contract for difference trading, options trading, crypto. It's just rubbish.
Yeah.
So the firms that have signed up, we've actually got 26 as of the day we're speaking. We've got 26 advice live with their own digital solution. By the time this goes out, we've got a 27th going live in a couple of days. But everyone is proactively reaching out to its existing client base to tell them, hey, we've got this new digital solution. And it's great for young people getting started on their wealth building journeys because it actually invests their money in multi-asset class diversified portfolios with us, that is the investment committee at ABC Financial Planning, making the investment decisions. But just as importantly, that content layer I referred to provides a means by which young people can learn, hey, there's only one way to invest for growing wealth over the long term, and that's sensibly by professionally managed portfolios, multi-asset class investment categories across the portfolio. And every other means, a get rich quick means to building wealth, it never works.
So you're actually, sorry, my apologies, my brain's just going a million miles a minute here. So firms that are actually able to create their digital education provision aligned with the actual investment piece. So they charge a fee on the investments through you? Yeah.
So the individual who signs up, and I'll stick with ABC saying I've used them as my example. The individual who signs up to that solution, whether they've got $20,000 to invest or $5,000 or $500,000, they pick one of the ABC firm's portfolios, the growth portfolio or the balanced portfolio, for example. They don't have to wade through a menu consisting of hundreds of model portfolios offered by hundreds of firms. But
how do they do a risk profile? Does your system create a risk profile inquiry?
No, because if there's a risk profile, it becomes personal advice.
Personal advice, yeah.
And in our experience, advisors actually interrogate the answers in the risk profile. That's one of the values they offer. It's understanding the individual over and above merely a simple answer, whereas in the current iteration of these risk profiles, there is no personal interrogation. People answer it and that's what they get. So we just felt, well, let's empower the individual by providing a clear explanation. The growth portfolio suits you if you've got the following characteristics, whereas the balanced portfolio, if you keep that menu tight, growth balanced and conservative, for example, and you don't ask the individual to build their own portfolio because they can't, they can choose. And then it's general advice. There is no statement of advice. But yes, you're right. The individual is within a portfolio managed by the investment committee at ABC. If they want US fixed interest at 15% in the growth portfolio, probably closer to 8%, that's what they tell OpenInvest. We're the platform. We implement that across everybody in the growth portfolio from ABC. And there's a management fee that the individual is signing up to. Yes, I'm happy to pay a management fee of X basis points, part of which is kept by OpenInvest for administering that portfolio, part of which is paid away to the firm for making portfolio management decisions. Again, that's no different to any managed account platform.
Any of that, yeah.
The difference is the individual signed themselves up on their own from the website. And then secondly, and I think we've looked around the world, we haven't yet seen an investment platform solution anywhere that has this inbuilt content layer. But the individual would say, it's terrific, ABC's looking after me, it's a great firm, they're making terrific decisions. And the great thing about it is I know exactly why the investment committees decided on Thursday to increase their exposure to Australian large caps and reduce their exposure to emerging markets. Because the chairman of the investment committee did a 5-minute video and I watched it on the app, on the tram on the way to work.
So I'm thinking from the business owner's perspective, the education material, is that something that OpenInvest provides from a generic perspective and then the investment committee does those investment decisions or how?
No, we don't. We don't. We may well do at one point. At the moment, it's kind of it's that publishing functionality, the best way to describe it, it's no different to one of the firms using us now or in the Evolve group, how they might use LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. It's a publishing platform. And the firm publishes...
So the content themselves comes from the firm and you publish it for them.
Correct. The way they'd like, and it's the themes that they find them, that they're specialist in. I mean, the firms can publish content over and above describing why they've updated the growth portfolio last week. They provide content around financial well-being, around saving for a house, about good expenditure patterns, about the issues to consider as families think about intergenerational wealth transfers. Any and all content is interesting, adds value to the end consumer. Again, let's use that segment of the younger person, the children of existing clients. But from the perspective of the firm, it is acting as a means to promote the skills and services and expertise of the firm to an extremely broad audience, efficiently and at scale, which that's the magic of technology.
Of course. And then, so I would imagine most firms would have a lot of that commentary already that they share with their full service financial planning clients. So it's likely not going to be a double up of the amount of content creation they're doing. But in terms of the initial engagement piece, so that information to really get clear that this particular client who's clicked on the website, they are most suited to be going through this purely DIY investment piece, as opposed to they really do have other needs that they really should speak to an advisor. How do you help the firms with that, I guess, that funnel kind of context to be able to make sure that they're served properly?
Yeah, we do. So we have an implementation team and a process that involves a number of facets. It's not just getting a firm live in a way by taking the logo in from the firm and their model portfolios and content, but taking them through the compliance issues involved. Certainly we can spend a bit more time talking about that because it actually is pretty interesting. If for those people that are listening at this point of this interview and discussion, if you're thinking this sounds too good to be true, and surely this is personal advice, and I think you, Andrew, you're one of those young fintech fellas who doesn't actually know what he's talking about when it comes to compliance. A, I'm not young, and B, I'm a lawyer by background. So we've built this with the caution and conservative nature that you have to if you're offering a new solution, but it has to be compliant under the Corporations Act. We've done this every step of the way with external legal advice, and we actually produce a legal guide to make sure firms understand what they can do in promoting their solution under general advice versus where they may cross the line into what would be deemed to be personal advice. We don't provide a funnel. No, once we get a firm live, they have their own solution. We train them. We go through an implementation process. For example, once a digital solution is live, whether it's in investing or anything else, people can sign themselves up without having to go through some personal involvement that might capture them and determine if this is going to be a valid solution for them. It's a simple investing solution. It just gives them an investment portfolio that's professionally managed in a multi-asset class portfolio that in every single case is going to be better than that individual opening an account on CommSec and or any online broker. I don't mean to pick out CommSec. They're all the same. They're great.
They fumble their way through without any knowledge of investment.
Everybody who is not a professional fumbles their way through, and anyone in the media who says, hey, just go on to an online broking account and buy a few ETFs to give yourself a low-cost diversified portfolio, the average person would say, well, which ETFs? There's over 200 of them. And how do I know about how to get allocations to different asset classes right? They're left to their own devices and they're not helped, and they're full of all the inevitable stress and anxiety that goes with not knowing they're being looked after properly.
Yeah. So I guess there's a little juggle to be done between wanting to ensure that if a client's going to invest through your platform with the firm, that it is the right thing for them to do and they shouldn't actually be taking advice, and you've got other things. And I know most advisors, I feel like, 20 years ago, we were having conversations, 15 years ago from since we've been in business, but having conversations with advisors, helping them understand, actually, you're not just all about your investment. So nowadays, advisors get the investment solutions are a small part of the overall value that financial planners give for their full suite of services. So to some degree, it's actually a little bit counterintuitive. But I do know that there's a line between we need to ensure that this is the right solution for clients, but by the same token, we can't be getting too much personal information from them, because then we do cross that line between this is now personal advice because we know some information about you. So I'm guessing, as you say, your implementation team is very helpful at making sure that the firm gets the right solution to take it into market and structured really well. What I'm still trying to get my head around in this conversation is most firms, every firm will already have a current investment philosophy and investment solution, and they will probably have their preferred platforms that they're already utilising to implement these solutions for their advised clients. So how does OpenInvest fit in with whatever wrap account the firm is currently using?
Well, it doesn't integrate with a different platform. And in fact, when people say, well, that's interesting, you're a bit like a platform, aren't you? I say, no, we are a platform. We're just a unique one that is, as I say, as far as I've not seen anything like it anywhere in the world. We just customize it so the firm has an alternative. So we don't say to firms, hey, you should use this instead of the existing platform that you're utilizing for your personally advised clients. It's just an alternative. It's accessible from the website. In fact, that's the only place it's accessible. Literally, of the 26 firms we've got live, you can't find your way into the firm with whom you may have a relationship. You can't find their solution except from the firm's website. And therefore, the firm just puts a description on its website alongside its other services. Hey, we're a personal advice firm based in Subiaco, to put it in a Western Australian context. And we've got these terrific advice services with these terrifically well-trained, educated and experienced advisors. These are the services we provide. This is how you make an appointment. If you've got, it's expensive. Advice is an expensive process. If you've got an amount of money to invest and you don't think you're ready for or suited to the personal advice process, you can click this button, read about our digital investing solution, and sign yourself up and you're away. Now, a firm can, if a person walks in or calls up and says, gee whiz, can you help me out? I've got $215,000 my grandmother left me in her will. I'm not really quite sure what to do. And my next door neighbour is a client of the firm and suggested I call. You're able to give that individual their options. You can come in and go through the personal advice process and help. Or if you would like, you can access and have a look at our online investing solution from the website. All of that information can be provided without crossing over into personal advice. Now, so clearly, if an individual was to come into the office or call and an advisor was to say, based on how you've described your needs and circumstances, what I would recommend is, well, then you've crossed that line into personal advice. And every firm we get live knows that, but we do go through a training process to reinforce those key points.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important to know. I know that some licensees or some compliance people are perhaps a little bit more risk averse than others. Of the firms that are using you, is this only self-licensed firms, and do they have to change their AFSL to enable them to use you, or is this pretty much available to everybody?
Yeah, great question. Everyone is self-licensed. So they're individual firms, or it's quite a large dealer group. The Lifespan dealer group has their own solution. Now, this is going to make you smile, or at least raise your eyebrows. We've got a pipeline of another, I think we're implementing another 10. So if you add the 26 live and another 10 or 15 we're getting live, I think at some point in my initial conversation, someone from the firm said, I don't know how this can be done. Surely it can't be done. I mean, literally, the phrase, either the direct phrase, this sounds too good to be true, has come out, or analogous words to that.
Mm.
And this is a reality with something that's new. It's like, I hadn't thought of it this way. Everyone trying to use, sorry, I'm going a bit long-winded, but trying to use tech to reach this mass market. People started from the proposition, well, how do we offer those people advice? And if you do that, then you have to go through a questionnaire journey and a recommendation and a statement of advice. Whereas if you start and ask the question, how do we provide a simple and easy means to help people invest professionally or with professional, well, then you would answer the question a bit differently, which is, would design things the way we have at OpenInvest. So yes, as I say, I am able to, or my colleague Ravi, we're both able to address for the most compliance-minded compliance teams, external lawyers, hey, this is how it works. And everyone has said, yep, you're right. This can be done under general advice. I've gone through this with ASIC a couple of times. Our own external lawyers have reviewed the guide documentation we've prepared. It's just unusual, that's all. And as I say, I'm not a young black t-shirt wearing fintech guy. We're all boring, conservative people who've built something that fits and suits every firm and passes muster with every firm's compliance or external legal team.
Well, Andrew, that's a really good segue to cover my next question, which was going to be, tell me a little bit more about you. Obviously, with 26 clients so far, you're relatively new. What is the OpenInvest story? Tell me about you. Tell me about Ravi. Where have you guys come from?
Yeah, well, we're all platform guys. So me and my two co-founders, or I and my two co-founders, and the rest of the team, with 25 people now, have been involved over many years in different facets of kind of a revolution, the managed account platform revolution that really started going back 15 years or so with Premium, and then other firms that came in. We've designed, built, marketed, operated, been RMs for different managed account platforms. And we really came together 5 years ago, really with this challenge and this sort of starting hypothesis. Hey, how would you design a managed account platform if the hypothesis or the target audience was a means by which the top 200 advice firms or stockbrokers or asset managers in the country were able to have their own digital solution to reach the 85% of Australians who didn't have an advisor. Of course, it's now 90% post the ongoing regulations and legislation imposing additional costs on the personal advice process. The percentage of people that are unadvised has grown. How would you design something for them? And the answer is you don't present one brand and say to the mass market of Australians, come and see us at OpenInvest. Instead, you design it so that you can customize it for I picked 200 brands out of the air. It might be 300 brands, advice firms across the country. They've got their own network of people in their world who trust that brand, either through personal connections or local affiliations, or they listen to the principals of that firm on the radio. We've got 2 firms in that category. A means by which they can present their investing solution. So that's the starting hypothesis. Then we just raised a series of funding rounds to build it. The easy thing being, the positive thing being, it's not the first time we've built an investment platform. So the more times you build it, the easier it is, because you go, crikey, now that I know, if I was starting again, I would have tweaked that around a little bit differently. And we run it. We've got our own tech, our own ops team, our own IDPS-like MIS, of which we're the RE. And as I say, we're doing it this way, and we've been able to get this off the ground within a few years because we've done it before.
You've got that experience.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. So, in terms of the technical aspects of things, now, one, I think you've already kind of answered this. This is only for direct investment monies. You don't have a super functionality for superannuation.
Public office super is coming, but not ready yet. It's on the roadmap.
Right. Okay. So if clients have a self-managed super fund, they can invest. Okay. Or direct personal investment monies.
Yeah, a trust account, a minor account, company account, all of those account types can sign up.
Great. Okay. And what if the firm doesn't necessarily have a proprietary investment solution? What if they don't have their own investment committee and asset consultants? They just use multi-manager portfolios or an off-the-shelf portfolio solution?
Yeah, great question. It does happen that all of the firms we've got do have their own investment philosophy that they affect and that they represent in the form of investment portfolios set by their own and managed by their own investment committee. So they do that.
Yeah, they've got their own intellectual property that sits around that.
Yep. And the investment committee is structured and formalised. Many of them do have external members on those committees just to provide a bit of extra rigour.
Mm-hmm.
But we can actually launch a solution for a firm that says, well, we actually don't waste our time on the investment portfolio. We do, as you say, we do other things where there's much more value. We use third-party model portfolios from XYZ, asset manager or asset consultant. Yep, and we could serve those firms as well.
Right.
They would be focusing on the additional content and highlighting the additional services and utilising their digital solution as an incubation platform for the next generation of personally advised clients. They're just not making portfolio decisions.
That's great. And then from a technical perspective, do they need to have an in-house IT specialist to do the integration? Like what's required from that aspect?
No, great question, that one. No, zero. There's zero integration because it's always the individual who signs up, whether they come in from the Knight Financial website, which is an existing deployment, or on the East Coast from Mackay Private, they're coming in via a different gateway, but leaving that firm's website after clicking a button, yep, this sounds great, I'd like to invest. They leave that firm's website and they're within our OpenInvest technology. It's branded in the name of that firm, and we handle everything. So the firm doesn't have to do any integration. It doesn't build an app. Firms are not, apart from the very biggest firms aren't set up to do that. So we take all that on, everything from AML, KYC, trading, operations, annual tax statements, client servicing queries. Firms aren't set up for client servicing queries. We handle all that as well. Okay. It's just within the branding of the firm
Right. And what about the cybersecurity aspect of things? Because I would imagine
that we handle all that as well. So we've got a robust IT team with a very experienced chief technology officer who's one of my two co-founders. Third-party penetration testing and all of the security that the AWS architecture provides for absolutely that reason, that it's the biggest concern that firms have when they talk to us, and we address that in how we provide those layers of robustness.
Fantastic. Well, I think I've probably covered most of my questions. That's a really great overview of the solution. And as I said at the outset, I see this as being something left of centre, what a lot of firms are not really considering at the moment, because they're focused on saying, how do we reach more clients in a more cost-effective way? They're not necessarily looking at it purely from the investment perspective, but for firms with a really long future, and particularly those that have quite a few people coming through that they know they'll be ready in 5 years or 3 years or whatever, but they don't want to lose them out to the world. It's an outstanding solution. And I think you've already touched on this. There isn't really anything else like it. Is that if people are trying to compare you to a competitor, are there any?
No, there's not.
Seems odd to be able to say that.
Right. No, it's nice. It makes it harder to explain what it is, because it can't be contrasted. Now, it's one of those things. It's just if I could make two comments, it's kind of obvious when I explain it to someone as to why I'd like to do a meeting. People, it sounds a bit odd. Then when they see it, they go, "Wow, why didn't you say that that's what it was?" Because it's a classic. I don't want to sound like a salesman, even though I am. It is a bit of seeing is believing. It's kind of obvious. So soon enough, I'm sure there will be other competitors offering something like this, because every firm in the world has the same problem. And you just made a great comment. There's a lot of studies that show young people when they inherit family wealth, I think it's something like 83 or 84% do not continue with their parents' advisors.
Yeah.
Now, if the firm's response to young people as they're building their wealth journeys as young adults is, go away, or we've got nothing for you, kid, come back when you're wealthy, they're never going to stay with the firm when they get wealthy. There'll be a million. Vanguard will grab them, and Vanguard won't let go. I should also say the other reason that firms are using us is, and this again is universal. In fact, I was just reading something on the weekend that it's a US research firm in wealth management called, I can't pronounce their name properly, Sorelli, I think. They did a survey they ranked the predicament or problems advisors have in the US. It just came out on the weekend. And the number one was, what do we do with the non-ideal clients we have on our books that we've just attracted and grown over time? That's an Australian problem I hear all the time. I hadn't realised it was such a problem in the US. And firms are actually thinking of how they can put the digital solution in front of those clients as a means for the clients to have a lower cost outcome. They don't need personal advice anymore. They don't need to be paying a certain amount of money. And crucially, it frees up time for the advisors who are
absolutely
overworked. Every advice firm I've gone to is finding it extremely hard to find more advisors. They're all stressed and overworked. It becomes a form of client segmentation. Without having to say to an existing client, go away, and we're going to turn you off, which is an extremely unpleasant thing to do after a client has shown loyalty to a firm for many years.
Andrew, it is a big issue happening in a lot of firms at the moment, and particularly as they've now gone to annual or ongoing service agreements that must be renewed every year. And we do it a lot because we help a lot of firms with their pricing. So they suddenly realise, well, I've got all these clients only paying me $1,000 a year. I now realise they're costing me, I have to lift their fees to $3,000 or whatever the number is, but I can't see that I can deliver value for that $3,000. So at the moment they're saying, look, we'll set you up as we'll change you to auto rebalancing or whatever needs to happen in your portfolio. And then we're going to switch off to your ongoing service fee, but come back to us when you need us. How does this work though with the personal advice? Like by that stage, you already know that client intimately. How do you satisfy that line between actually now we're moving away from personal advice? We've looked after you for the last 20 years or 10 years, and now that your partner's passed away and you're running down your assets, now we're moving you to general advice. Like how do you tick the boxes there really well?
If it's a recommendation, then it's an element of personal advice. It can be a one-off piece and hence done in a very scalable way, which is this is a more economic solution for you given your circumstances. It's a piece of advice that requires a statement of interest. But
right.
Other firms are also giving clients an option that the fee is going to, the cost to serve has gone up and therefore the fee to continue delivering this service under personal advice is going to be X dollars per annum. But we now have an online solution. We'll be managing your portfolio. It just will not be pursuant to a personal advice relationship. It means it doesn't come with the additional personal face-to-face services that go with that. The cost is half X, or actually can be much lower. And those individuals are then empowered to choose, in which case it's not advice. They've been given a clear choice as to which way they would like to go. Either way can work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Another reason why you're absolutely solving an unmet need in advice firms in Australia, certainly. And as you say, their peers in the US, sounds like they're having similar problems, albeit they might not have quite so much they don't have the compliance regime that we do here. So, Andrew, I think that's beautiful. Unless there's anything else that we haven't really covered off, is there anything we're missing? Maybe the pricing. We touched on it, but can you talk through the cost to use OpenInvest?
Yeah, so we do have a one-off initial setup fee per firm.
Sure. Yeah.
It starts at $25,000, but we've got a particular way of doing it for much larger firms, which is a bit more expensive. The ongoing fee to the firm for having their digital solution is zero. It's literally just if they've already doing model portfolios for personally advised clients, then it's zero marginal cost because it's just the same model portfolios.
Yeah.
So, and similarly, in the same way they're already producing content, again, they're not doing any additional work. It's just publishing that
just
content
loading it into
their digital solution.
And the ongoing cost for the client?
The client pays a management fee. And the management fee is a function of our administration component, which is a standard 25 basis points. And what the firm is adding on top of that for them making portfolio decisions. And the firm
what
sets
are firms charging?
Well, some are as low as 20 basis points. They're just saying, hey, this is a scale solution. We've already got the IP. For us, it's not a money-making mechanism. If it's a cost recovery, that's terrific because this is a pipeline of future clients that we're going to be nurturing. Other firms are saying, hey, we can reach a much broader audience, and there's a fair bit of work involved, and the fee is up at 50 basis points, for example.
Right. But that's entirely up to the firm to make that decision of what works for them.
Correct. And then the last, you were wrapping up, and unless there was something else, the only other comment I'd make is we quite rightly, this is for the firms within your audience, we were talking about the benefits to the firm and how it worked for the firm, et cetera, et cetera. My concluding comment is that if you flip it a bit and think about it from what is this doing for an end consumer?
The client.
The mass market of Australians, because the banks have withdrawn and because our online brokers in this country are very unusual in that they do not offer access to professionally managed portfolios by trusted brands, whereas it's just basic stuff in the US now to do that. But by default, the mass market of Australians has been told, tough luck, you're not wealthy. So you're on your own, pal. I think that's a terrible outcome. Investing is really hard. And no matter how many times newsletters you read, I don't think it can be done by amateurs, frankly. They can't, because they can't pick ETFs and then re-weight those ETFs based on changing global circumstances. You can't go wrong with a blue chip portfolio of shares. Well, you can. Plenty of blue chips end up being subject to the brutalities of competition in their sector, and lo and behold, they're no longer blue chips a few years down the track. So this is a means to provide a safe, sensible, long-term way for every Australian to have their money looked after by professionals, whether it's the largest firm in the country or a small firm. But everyone in a small firm on an investment committee is a professional. And they can look after an unlimited number of people, provide content that delivers comfort and reassurance and confidence so that individuals sleep at night knowing they're being looked after. They just don't get the benefit of personal interactions, but hey, not
until such time as they need it.
Until they're ready. And even if they're potentially they're not ready, well, they're still being looked after, and it costs the firm nothing extra. Anyway, that's the last part of my sales pitch. Hopefully that was
too full on. No, that was great. Thank you, Andrew. So from here, for people that have now got their head around the basics and how it works, obviously we're going to share the links to your website through the show notes and in the portal. What do they do from here? We'll put links to you. Is it just yourself or is it Ravi? How long, if someone says, yes, I love the thought of this, they've got their extra questions to cover and then they say, okay, let's go.
Well, they can just reach out to me and Ravi. So I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm also the head of, well, actually Ravi, my colleague, who I've known for a long time, is head of distribution. So in that sense, I report to Ravi. But the two of us are out there pounding the pavement, meeting firms. They can reach out to us on LinkedIn, on our website, on the For Advisors section.
Yeah, and we'll pop all these links.
Yeah, there's more information there, case studies, and a means just to say, hey, this sounds interesting. I'd like to hear more. Although if they've watched all of this video, they've heard a lot because we've gone on a lot, which is probably too long, and I apologise. But we can do a demo. We often find we do a 10-minute demo. The light bulb goes off. Now I get it. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. And looking into that research from the law firm as well, I found that was really helpful for me when I had all of those queries.
That's a great point, isn't it? Until you see it written down, it's just a lot to take in. It's not because you were slow or anyone else is slow. It is. It's a different way.
Well, you need to do your due diligence and get your head around it. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being an innovator in this profession and really helping advisors to reach more people and provide better support. We'll put all the links in the notes and people can reach out to you directly.
So thank you. Thanks for those positive comments. Thanks for your interest and enthusiasm and for all the great work you do as well, getting positive messages of support and ideas out to advice firms in Australia, and that you've been doing for a long time.
Sure have. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.